WWE's Hall of Fame isn't like others in sports. There's no vote. WWE management simply chooses who's inducted. So if someone is on bad terms with the company, or vice versa, it's probably never going to happen. Here are some prime examples. Nancy Toffoloni broke into the wrestling business in 1984, starting in Championship Wrestling from Florida. She was the fallen angel, part of Kevin Sullivan's faction of storyline Satanists. She and Sullivan married in 1985, and she mostly worked as a valet and manager, though she did have a few matches in ECW. Using the ring name Woman, then Nancy Sullivan joined WCW in 1996. In a storyline booked by Kevin Sullivan himself, she started a relationship with Chris Benoit as he feuded with Nancy's husband. It soon turned into a real affair, and Nancy divorced Sullivan in 1997. She married Benoit in 2000, the same year they had a son named Daniel. After Chris didn't show up for a WWE pay-per-view in June 2007, police found the Benoits dead in their home. Chris had strangled Nancy and Daniel to death before killing himself. Nancy was 43. In the Dark Side of the Ring documentary covering the tragedy, Nancy's stepson David Benoit said, "She deserves the recognition she doesn't get." Many fans have also been vocal in support of Woman being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. But WWE has essentially cut Chris Benoit, and by association Nancy, out of its history. Chris Jericho has advocated for Nancy's induction, saying she was a pioneer and one of the best in a role that doesn't exist anymore. A former football player and Golden Gloves boxer, Marc Mero, entered the wrestling industry in 1990. As WCW's Johnny B. Bad, Mero was pushed as a flamboyant Little Richard-esque prima donna. In 1996, Mero defected to the WWF, where he used his real name and was managed by his wife, Sable. He quickly won the Intercontinental Championship, but a knee injury took him off television in 1997. During his time off, Mero was repackaged to focus more on his boxing background. Around that time, Sable's star began to outshine Mero's. He left the promotion in 1999, despite having time left on WWF's first ever guaranteed contract. After a short return in WCW, Mero wrestled for XPW and TNA before retiring in 2006. Following the deaths of the Benoit family, Mero appeared on Nancy Grace's Headline News show to discuss drug abuse in the wrestling business. Mero's comments were met with criticism by wrestlers like Fit Finlay, who told Mero on a forum hosted by Grace, "You've got nothing to do with this business." On the Such Good Shoot podcast, Mero said he believes his comments about WWE's wellness policy ruined his goodwill with the company. He said, "I'm vilified from wrestling and blackballed, and probably will never be invited to a WrestleMania. Whatever." Billed at 6'9" and weighing nearly 500 pounds, Nelson Frazier Jr. had multiple stints with WWE under various gimmicks such as Mabel, Viscera, and Big Daddy V. In his time with the promotion, he earned accolades such as the 1995 King of the Ring, a tag team championship reign, and a run with the Hardcore Championship. Frazier died of a heart attack in February 2014. On the first anniversary of his death, Frazier's widow filed a wrongful death lawsuit against WWE. According to PW Insider, Frazier's estate claimed the promotion withheld information regarding the long-term cognitive effects of concussions. Frazier was reported to be suffering from symptoms of CTE, such as short-term memory loss, migraines, and depression. By the end of Frazier's life, medical bills for his ailments had left him in dire straits. In 2016, the judge threw out his family's lawsuit, citing lack of evidence that CTE caused his death. Frazier's former tag team partner Mo said on the Two-Man Power Trip of Wrestling podcast that he didn't believe Frazier's death was the WWE's doing, arguing that other territories were just as culpable. Either way, the lawsuit means WWE likely won't want to honor him anytime soon. Roaming the territories over a career spanning 31 years, Dick Murdoch was a resilient brawler who took pride in his Texas redneck roots. At a classic mismatched tag team, he was paired with Adrian Adonis, a New Yorker. In spite of their differences, the North-South Connection won the WWF Tag Team Championships in April 1984. Murdoch left the territory the following year. He made his last WWF appearance in 1995 as the 27th entrant in the Royal Rumble match. The following year, Murdoch died of a heart attack at the age of 49. While never a world champion, Murdoch's colorful resume would seemingly make him worthy of a Hall of Fame consideration. But in the years following his death, Murdoch has been accused of some very damning associations. Rocky Johnson was just one of many wrestlers who claimed Murdoch was affiliated with the Ku Klux Klan. Johnson claimed that Murdoch hit him stiff in matches because he was black, so Johnson had to knock him out in the ring. Tony Atlas told Hannibal TV that Murdoch invited him to a get-together where he'd be the light of the party. The party turned out to be patrolled by Klansmen armed with shotguns. Atlas confronted Murdoch, and Murdoch claimed he didn't think Atlas would actually go. Ex-WWE writer Alex Greenfield said Murdoch's Texas Outlaws partner, Dusty Rhodes, accompanied Murdoch to a Klan meeting without knowing that's where he was going. Hugh Morris, real name Bill DeMott, was one of dozens of WCW talents who came into the WWF after Vince McMahon acquired his largest competitor in 2001. Following a 2002 injury, DeMott joined the cast of Tough Enough as a trainer. He became a full-time trainer starting in 2004, and he also took on the role of booker for Deep South Wrestling, one of WWE's developmental territories at the time. In an RF video interview, DSW alum Kenny Omega claimed that DeMott's training style was based on toxic old-school toughness and caused legitimate injuries. DeMott was released from WWE in January 2007. DeMott returned to WWE in 2011 for the rebooted Tough Enough. He also became the head trainer for FCW, the developmental promotion that would evolve into NXT. Ivelisse Velez, who appeared on the 2011 season of Tough Enough and was signed to a developmental contract, claimed on Vince Russo's podcast that she was released from that contract in retaliation for reporting DeMott's misconduct. She also told Chris Van Vliet of DeMott,
"He has a personality that can become rather quickly a bully type personality."
Accusations against DeMott gained enough publicity that he resigned in 2015, and he hasn't worked in the wrestling industry since. With all that bad publicity, it's unlikely that WWE will want to put DeMott, who spent most of his career as a mid-carder, in the Hall of Fame. That said, DeMott has denied the accusations, and colleagues including JBL have gone to bat for him on Twitter. DeMott specifically denied Velez's allegations on the Monty and Pharaoh podcast, saying the company used him as a scapegoat. Sabu inducted his uncle, the original Sheik, into the 2007 WWE Hall of Fame class. That might be the closest he ever gets to being in the Hall of Fame itself, despite his storied career. Sabu was ECW's second Triple Crown champion, and he had a run in WWE in 2006 during its relaunch of ECW. Less than a month after that run began, Sabu was stopped by police in Ohio while traveling with then WWE and ECW champion Rob Van Dam. Sabu and Van Dam were both arrested when officers found marijuana and painkillers like Vicodin in their rental car. For violating the company's wellness policy, RVD dropped both championships in succession, and Sabu was fined. After pleading guilty in court, both men were released from the company the next year. Sabu is in the former ECW Arenas Hardcore Hall of Fame, but he has dismissed WWE's. He told Nonstop Wrestling Chat that he doesn't see the merit in it. He said he believes the promotion only nominates names that will sell tickets and that he would only participate for a large sum of money. WrestleMania 40 is scheduled for Philadelphia, ECW's old stomping grounds, so maybe WWE will fork out enough cash to induct him there, but it's probably unlikely. New Jack's matches were not technical spectacles, they were weapon-heavy brawls. Still, he possessed an uncanny ability to elicit crowd reactions from just about anyone. Part of his appeal was his unpredictability, but it also caused him a lot of problems. A number of his matches almost turned into homicide cases. For example, in November 1996, Eric Kulaz replaced Axel Rotten in an ECW tag team match. Kulaz, who was 17, lied about his age. On Kulaz's request, Jack cut him with a surgical scalpel and severed 2 arteries, causing profuse bleeding. Kulaz barely survived. His family sued, but the case was thrown out. New Jack was also acquitted on assault and battery charges. Years later, he had this exchange with DJ Vlad about the incident.
So you really didn't care what happened to him at that point?
No, I didn't.
Because it was his idea for you to cut him?
Yeah.
At an independent show in 2004, New Jack became annoyed when Hunter Red hit him with several stiff punches. New Jack then stabbed Red several times and was arrested. On Dark Side of the Ring, New Jack revealed that Red dropped charges against him on the promise that they would work an angle, which never happened. New Jack, whose real name was Jerome Young, passed away in 2021, but it hasn't dulled the criticism of his in-ring behavior. While Hall of Famers such as Terry Funk and Abdullah the Butcher pioneered the hardcore style, they never faced criminal charges for what they did in the ring, and that's likely what separates them from New Jack. In the United States, John Laurinaitis, aka Johnny Ace, was a mid-card act for territories like WCW. Overseas, he was a mainstay for All Japan Pro Wrestling, with reigns as both All Asia and World Tag Team Champion. After stepping away from in-ring competition in 2000, Laurinaitis worked on WCW's management team until the company shuttered its doors. Laurinaitis then worked as a road agent for WWE before being promoted to Vice President of Talent Relations. Laurinaitis would occasionally serve as an on-air authority figure and stooge to Vince McMahon. In 2022, the Wall Street Journal reported that McMahon paid a former employee with whom he was having an affair millions of dollars to keep quiet. Laurinaitis was accused of also being involved with the employee and was put on administrative leave. Laurinaitis was ultimately terminated in August of that year. Even beyond the controversy that forced his exit, Laurinaitis' tenure in management has been heavily criticized. He's been accused of hiring swimsuit models instead of world-traveled wrestlers and sabotaging developmental talents with premature call-ups. Even though his brother Road Warrior Animal and daughters-in-law the Bella Twins are in the Hall of Fame, Laurinaitis' chances aren't looking good. Owen Hart was a gifted performer who amazed crowds. As the goofy masked hero the Blue Blazer, Hart was booked to win the Intercontinental Championship from The Godfather at Over the Edge 1999. His planned entrance involving dangling down from a harness to the ring went awry because of an equipment failure, and Hart plummeted from the rafters to his death at the age of 34. Hart's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the WWF and was ultimately awarded an $18 million settlement. Since his death, Owen's widow Martha has been very protective of her late husband's name, not wanting the company she blames for his death to profit from his image. Owen's brother Brett has argued that his brother should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. He said she's doing harm and erasing his legacy. But another of Owen's brothers, Ross Hart, has said he respects Martha's stance, noting that she allowed Owen to be inducted into the Tragos and Fez Hall of Fame, among others. On Dark Side of the Ring, Martha and her son Oj once again rejected the idea of him ever being in the WWE Hall of Fame. Chris Benoit had near universal respect from his peers during his wrestling career. He was one of the most accomplished technicians of his time. Of course, all that came crashing down in July 2007 when he killed his wife Nancy and son Daniel before killing himself. In the introduction to that week's ECW broadcast, Vince McMahon announced that after his remarks, Benoit's name would not be mentioned. And indeed, his name was almost never uttered on WWE TV again. The story dominated the news for months, putting WWE under a microscope over its handling of CTE and substance abuse. Since Benoit's death, fans have debated whether there's a way to honor his in-ring career without glorifying his horrific crimes. Some have said he should be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Benoit's son David and Eddie Guerrero's widow Vicky Guerrero have advocated for Benoit to go into the Hall, but others, such as Steve Austin, are opposed to the idea. During a Reddit AMA, Chris Jericho gave a one-word answer when asked if Benoit should be inducted: never. WWE most likely agrees with him. If you or anyone you know is having suicidal thoughts, please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline by dialing 988 or by calling 1-800-273-TALK-8255.